Hello and welcome back to Harry Ball Sports. Today we have my Week 1 predictions. I want to do these predictions every week, and this acts as a really good way for me to prove to you that I actually do know ball a little bit. So the season goal for this is at least 65% accuracy, and I will hold myself to that very publicly here. The NFL usually tries to cook up a particularly exciting schedule for the start of the season, and this year is no exception. And week 1 is weird because you have the least amount of information to work with because there's been no football for so many months, but it's usually one of the more predictable weeks, so I'm excited to see how this looks on my record. Although we do start off pretty easy. On Thursday night, we have Eagles versus Cowboys. These teams hate each other, and they have for a very long time. It's nice to start the season with a very potent rivalry. But the thing is, since the day we knew this game was happening, we've all expected the Eagles to win. And now that Micah Parsons is gone, it kind of feels like the game is already over. So the entertainment value here comes from just watching Dallas fall apart on national television. It has been a very, very sad sports year for that city. But I do kind of relish in their failure a little bit. I think a lot of NFL fans can relate to that. Cowboys fans usually come into every season with this idea that, no, this is our year. This delusion that it's going to work out this time for some reason. But I feel like even the most hardcore Dallas fans can't come into Thursday expecting something good to happen. Do they really think anything changed from last season? Their roster got better in any way at all? Because it would be textbook delusion to think you're getting anywhere near 8 wins, for example. Especially after Jerry Jones' press conference about the trade. It was weird. He was having a hard time putting sentences together. He mispronounced Micah's name most of the time, and it did not reflect well on his ability to make good decisions for this team moving forward. I don't even really feel like I need to talk about the Eagles for this matchup. It's just about the Cowboys failing. We all know Dallas is going to lose, and I'm just excited to see some good football, whatever form that takes. So, go Birds. Moving on to Friday night, we have Chiefs versus Chargers. The energy at these international games is always great, and I trust Brazil to keep that trend going. And the new time zones and the different conditions always create memorable moments. Think about last year. Obviously, playing the Chiefs is a super tough way to start the season, but the Chargers always put up a good fight and play this team pretty hard. It would definitely be a big deal if these Chiefs lost week 1 after going 15-2 last season, and it would be the first time in literal years they've lost 2 games in a row. While the upset would be a lot of fun, I do think Kansas City's going to take it, so I have to pick the Chiefs to keep my record up. Moving on to Sunday in the early window, we're going to start with Bucs-Falcons. Division games always have that extra level of competition to them, but these two teams in particular are both poised for success this season, with the Bucs making the playoffs last season and the Falcons having the most going for them in years. We have what is essentially a rookie in Michael Penix Jr. and what is now a veteran in Baker Mayfield. Kind of weird how time works. I feel like just 3 years ago, Baker was the young underdog in Cleveland. But I hope it goes better for Penix here than it went for Baker with the Browns. I do think the Bucs are the more complete team, but I think I'm going to take the Falcons on this one. I'm not nearly as confident with this as I am for the Eagles or the Chiefs, for example, but I kind of feel like they're going to come out swinging, and I want to lay claim to some of that win. Moving on to another divisional game, we have the Bengals and Browns. And like the Eagles and Cowboys, we have contender versus disaster. The Bengals are bringing out a pretty similar roster to last year, just a lot more expensive. And the Browns actually have gotten better. They just kind of made some weird choices in the offseason. Namely in the draft, drafting Dylan Gabriel, then drafting Shedeur Sanders out of pity, I think. And I know we're going to see Joe Flacco, but that is the exciting part of the Browns, so that is what I have to mention. The Bengals do historically start slow, but I kind of feel like this year's going to be different. I sound like a Cowboys fan, just saying the same thing year after year. And not that beating the Browns is really a sign of incredible improvement, it just kind of seems like a gimme at this point. The Bengals defense looks kind of exactly the same, weirdly enough, but they are playing against Joe Flacco, so I kind of feel like they're going to be okay. And all they got to do is just hold them to 40 points, because Burrow's going to put up 42, so I think the win or the loss here would also have a huge impact on their team morale moving forward. I think it would show genuine improvement and get them away from the idea that they're just bound to start 1-3. And with all that said, I got the Bengals to win it. Moving on to Dolphins-Colts. You gotta squint really, really hard to see it, but there's more to this game than you might think. Indiana actually has not won week 1 since 2014, so they could really use that win this season. Miami's one of those teams that hypothetically could be really strong, but we just haven't really been able to see that on the field in a long time. And some people are saying Mike McDaniel's on the hot seat, and I want to see him stick around, so obviously my hope is that Miami takes this one. It just depends if the offense can actually work like it's built to work. We need Tua to not get knocked unconscious, we need Tyreek to not get arrested like he did last year in week 1. And if they set a precedent of success here in week 1, maybe that can kind of help them build some momentum. And again, not a great defense, but all they got to do is stop Daniel Jones, who really has been a pretty horrible quarterback for every single game of his career except that one playoff win that got him, millions of dollars. Obviously he's an NFL caliber quarterback, but, he's the 50th best in the league. And I still don't really understand why Indiana is starting him. It's we're pretty sure Anthony Richardson isn't the future of the franchise, but we're definitely sure it's not Daniel Jones, so why are we wasting the time starting him? I think they should give the reps to the young guy. Long story short, I got the Dolphins, and I guess I'll accept watching this game through Red Zone. Panthers-Jaguars. This is actually kind of a tough game to predict in my opinion. I feel like definitely one of these teams is going to do better than last year, but I can't tell who it is. Like one of them's going to jump by 4 wins, just who is it? Like I think Trevor Lawrence is pretty safe, and they are building the talent around him that he might need to succeed. Brian Thomas Jr. was great last season. I'm excited to see him again. We're going to see Travis Hunter finally. We didn't get to see him a lot in the preseason, unfortunately, and I'm super stoked to see how it's actually going to look playing on both sides of the ball. And especially while that's a mystery still, I'm going to pay attention to every single snap of these Jags games all year. Carolina's trending upwards for sure, but I just think the Jags are doing it at a slightly higher pace, and maybe they're a year or two ahead of them. So I see the Jags coming out with the win. Moving on to Raiders-Patriots, I don't expect the Raiders offense to come out of the gate looking amazing, but some of the individual performers do have my attention. Obviously, Ashton Jeanty is one of the more exciting rookies this year, and against this Patriots run defense, it's a good opportunity for him to start hot. With that said, I do expect more of a defensive showdown on this one, and the Patriots aren't exactly must-see TV this year, so I'm just going to move on quickly and say that I got the Raiders. Cardinals-Saints. If you saw the first video, you know how I feel about these two teams. They didn't rank near the top of the list at all in entertainment value alone, but when they're playing each other, I can see that being actually a pretty fun time. In research for these videos, I've gotten a lot more interested in Arizona, and I want to see if they can get back to that winning habit they had at the start of last season. The Saints, however, have no past success to draw any optimism from, so I'm going to give the nod to Arizona. I can see that run game giving them a lot of control of the clock, and I just don't think the unproven offense in New Orleans has anything to say against this Cardinals defense, so it's pretty easy to take Arizona. Moving on to the rare double revenge game, we have Steelers versus Jets. Both Justin Fields and Aaron Rodgers are going to try to get one over on their past teams. And either way, the revenge game is a personal favorite category of mine, especially with quarterbacks. I do think Rodgers is in a far better situation now, and he's definitely had this date circled on his calendar for a while, so I can see him coming into this with just a pure vengeance. That offense could actually work out pretty well this season, and the Jets haven't really done anything in the offseason to make me think they have any chance against this notoriously reliable Steelers defense. I mean, those guys contain Lamar Jackson twice a year, so I think they'll be just fine with Justin Fields, who's kind of like the Winco brand Lamar Jackson. And it's kind of weird to not hear a single thing about a team all offseason, which I haven't with Jets. And usually is not a very good sign, so I'm going to go with the Jets here. I don't imagine I'm going to pick Aaron Rodgers very much this year, so I would tell him to soak it in while he's got it. On to Giants-Commanders. A slightly more exciting game here. I'm a big Jaden Daniels guy, I think everyone is, and I think he's going to come out and do just as good as he did last season. And all division games are intense, but this one feels weirdly pivotal for week 1. I think it's obvious the Eagles win the division and the Cowboys lose the division, so these guys will kind of be fighting back and forth for number 2 all season. And I think week 1 gives each of these teams a really good opportunity to sort of set the tone for that competition. Russell Wilson and Abdul Carter definitely on my radar this season, and while I think Carter's going to have a productive season, Russell Wilson's just a huge question mark at this point, and I love question marks. Like, you could get the head on his shoulder, nice guy, team leader Russ, or the unlucky, bad decision, flustered Russ. And kind of like the Browns, I think we're going to get a lot of information on who's going to be the starting quarterback for the year based on how these guys perform in week 1. Gonna have to give the edge to the Commanders in this one. Go Jaden Daniels. On to the Sunday afternoon time slot, we're going to start with Titans-Broncos. This is a fun one. Obviously, we got Cam Ward's first ever career start against a real defense, but unfortunately, it's the Broncos defense, who are probably going to finish in the top 5 this year. With their offseason additions, just quality guys all across the field, and the rating defensive player of the year, it's a really hard place to start as a rookie. I will say though, with that said, if he goes out there and puts up, 35 points, he will instantly have the fan base get really excited, but let's all agree to not overreact based on week 1, especially with the rookie quarterbacks. I don't know a ton about the Titans defense, but I'm kind of fine with that. They're not a super interesting unit this year, and as far as I'm concerned, they just act as something for Bo Nix to throw against. And an opportunity to see running back RJ Harvey, who I have twice in fantasy, so expect me to follow him pretty closely. I like what I saw from Denver a lot last season, so I think the Broncos are a pretty safe pick here. Next up is the Seahawks versus the Niners. This is a favorite matchup of mine. I've watched this game a lot of times over the year, but sadly the Niners have been getting the better of this matchup a lot recently. It's usually pretty close to the first half, but then the Niners start pulling away in the third. But this season I feel like they're on a little bit more of an even playing field. Obviously these Seahawks are untested, but I don't feel like it's the same automatic loss that it has been in years past. So with both these teams in a pretty new state, I'm excited to see what happens. We got some new Seahawks with, Cooper Kupp and Sam Darnold, and some returning 49ers with Christian McCaffrey and almost no one else because they're all injured. I think we're going to learn a lot, not just from the score, but from how these teams look on the field. And I know I was talking big game about the even playing field, but I do got to take the Niners here still. So sorry, Seahawks. On to another classic division game with a lot of emotions involved. We got Lions versus Packers. Like I said, the NFL always cooks up a good schedule for week 1, and, this is a great example of that. The Lions have a lot of big play potential on both sides of the ball. We get to see Micah Parsons in green for the first time. But again, he only got there like 4 days ago, so I can't expect him to really know the scheme all that well. I think they're really just going to say, hey, go kill Jared Goff. And historically, Micah Parsons is pretty good at doing that, so I think it'll be okay. And on offense, the Packers are premiering their first-round receiver, Matthew Golden. So really, there's a reason to watch every single snap of this game. Like, this game is the culmination of so much, off-season politics and drama in the draft and players coming back from injury and all, and it's all fueled by a rivalry that's decades old. I really can't wait. I do think the Packers actually got this one. I just like the vibes in that building a little bit better right now, and I feel like that's really, really important at the start of the season especially. On to Rams versus Texans. These are two teams who could reasonably go to the playoffs, but I feel like neither of them are really in peak form as of right now. The Rams are starting without Matthew Stafford, at least at full health, and the Texans, this is weird, but I know they won a playoff game in the last 2 years, but for some reason I just have no confidence in this team, and I can't really pinpoint exactly why. I know they lost Diggs in the offseason, but that may have been for the best. And yeah, Nico Collins is really cool, and he's sort of an up-and-comer, but I just can't see Nick Chubb really being super valuable in 2025. And I just get the feeling that while 1 or 2 playoff wins is great, it's just the absolute ceiling for this team. Like, they're not going to beat any real contenders. And for some reason, I do kind of feel like the Rams technically could go all the way, whereas Houston doesn't give me that hope at all. I just think there's no chance. It makes me wonder if I'm kind of just being a hater, I guess. Okay, if Jaden Daniels plays like CJ Stroud did last season, and I just lose interest in him completely, then we can understand that I'm just impatient. And a victim of the hype train, which is very possible. And I hope both teams surprise me and we get like a, classic all-time shootout, but something about this game isn't doing it for me. Especially competing with the Lions and Packers in this time slot. But I think I'm talking too much about a game that I'm not interested in, so let's move on. I'll take the Rams. Sunday night late window. We got what I think is easily the game of the week with the Bills versus the Ravens. Again, this is what football's all about. This is almost unfair. The NFL is like cheating. They're spoiling us. 2 quarterbacks on track for the Hall of Fame, 2 big-name running backs, and a bunch of defensive stars. I can see Lamar Jackson having a bit of a chip on his shoulder after losing the MVP race to Josh Allen when he maybe should have gotten it. And while these are 2 super powerful offenses, I kind of just trust the Bills' defense a little bit more. So I think I got the Bills. That team just kind of feels like they have a little bit of plot armor right now, and I can't really explain why, but I guess I trust them against really good teams more than I trust the Ravens. I think they've demonstrated that in the last couple seasons, and Josh Allen just kind of has that ability to live up to the moment. And not that Lamar doesn't, it's just that he really hasn't. With that said, we will finish up with the Monday Night Football game, Bears versus Vikings. I think the other half of the NFC North is a really great pick for this Monday night time slot, and it's great to see 2 young quarterbacks compete for leeway that's going to really mean a lot in the super competitive division. And not that I think either of these quarterbacks really has that competitive dog mentality, but I think if they're going to play in this division, they're going to really have to develop that. Especially since realistically these teams are fighting for slots 3 and 4. Caleb Williams does have an extra year of experience in JJ McCarthy, but I think last season taught us that it's just tough to be a Bear and great to be a Viking. I mean, Justin Jefferson alone eclipses any receiver the Bears have had for a decade. I think both these teams will be competitive, and I do expect these quarterbacks to stick around for at least a while, so I think this is going to be a nice introduction to these 2 guys to sort of meet and develop their rivalry. I like the new coaching staff in Chicago, but the reports out of the camp have not been very positive on either side of the ball. That and the recent success of the Vikings kind of urges me to go with Minnesota, but I think I've been taking a lot of safe picks in this video, and something tells me this is the spot to take a risk. So I'm actually going to put my bet on Caleb Williams and the Bears, even though I'm not really thrilled I'm doing that. And that wraps up all the games for week 1. Definitely going to do a week 2 predictions next video, and we'll see how I did on this one. But I do still have 17 weeks of football and 13 playoff games to make my win-loss record better. So week 1 is important, but it's not the end of the world if I really screw this up. Come back next week to see if I'm even close. This has been Harry Ball Sports. I will see you next time. Go Birds.